Hey there, Steven. Oh, that was good. That was a good one.
Hey there, Dustin. How you doing?
Better now.
So you know how I started opening up our episodes with the beer can opening sound?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's actually one of my beer cans that I recorded just the exact same way I just recorded that one by just opening it up in mic on the podcast.
It's because you're true talent, Steve. You have true talent.
I mean, I try not to hit up the sound effects websites and pay for all those Foley effects. We can just create them on our own here.
Live.
You know how it is.
Live in studio.
Yeah. You guys, listeners out there, you just got a live taste of what it's like to do Foley effects.
Foley effects.
Dustin, so since this isn't a holiday special episode, we're going to start out by talking about what we were drinking. Are you drinking anything tonight?
I am drinking a mighty fine glass of McAllister's Finest from the McAllister's Deli. I don't know if you've heard of that, depending on where you live.
I'm not familiar with that brewery, no.
Yeah, it's pretty delicious. Comes in many flavors.
It looks nice.
Yeah, and it's got a little Jameson in it. But
I have transitioned over to the Third Street Brewhouse from Minnesota.
Minnesota?
Drinking the hop lift.
I'm sorry.
Minnesota, Wisconsin. Am I doing that accent right?
No, not at all. That's more of a Minnesota.
No. Man, have you ever been to Minnesota?
Nope.
I had to do some training in Minneapolis, St. Paul one time. That place is surprisingly much cooler than I thought it would be.
I've heard good things about that and like the Twin Cities.
Minneapolis, St. Paul is the Twin Cities.
Oh, that makes more sense now.
Yeah. Just a little geography lesson for Dustin and all the listeners out there.
Well, I was doing a wedding a month or so ago in Wisconsin, and so many of the guests kept saying,
Wisconsin.
I'm from the Twin Cities, or I'm from, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't know the difference. Didn't realize that was the same thing.
Yeah, but now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
Absolutely. So, Steve, do you have a good Thanksgiving?
Oh, Dustin, I had the best Thanksgiving, I assume. We're actually just joking around. We are literally recording this like seconds after recording the Thanksgiving special. I have transitioned over from my Victory Storm King that I was drinking in the Thanksgiving special, which is an Imperial Stout, to the Third Street Brewhouse Hop Lift, which is an IPA. And I got to tell you, it is a rough transition. Yeah, do not ever start with a stout and then go IPA. You want to go the other way.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
I made a huge mistake, Dustin. Huge mistake. Drinking lesson 101.
Unrelated question. What's going on with that big ass video tripod you got in the background there?
Oh, Jen and I were shooting our Christmas photos the other day. So we had that out. Yeah. So every year for Christmas time, I do a photo for one of my friends, and then I send him a picture of that photo, and it's always a ridiculous photo. He's one of my best friends, and he's the one who got me started listening to podcasts many years ago. His name's Jason. He lives in Denver. And every year I like to send him a photo. We were listening to a podcast called Just the Tip a while back. And on Just the Tip, they sent each other fractures, which are like those glass photos where they print straight on the glass, Mm-hmm. And they would send each other fractures every year that were just like utterly ridiculous fractures. And then you had to leave up the other person's fracture for an entire year. And I thought this was a great idea. So I started sending Jason fractures of myself every year for Christmas. Jason did not reciprocate. Jason sent me real Christmas presents every year.
It sounds like a very one-sided relationship that you're getting the better end of.
No, I don't think so. He has a shrine to me in his house now. He sent me a photo of it a while back. It was utterly fantastic.
Can you post that on the Instagram? I think I would like to see that.
I'll have to. I don't know. He might have just set it up for like a day and sent it to me. Oh gosh, my memory is so terrible. He might have just told me he was going to do it, and in my head, I imagined it, and it was wonderful looking. But this year, I'm really blowing it out. I'm not going to say too much because Jason does listen to the pod, and I don't want him to get any ideas. Last year, though, Jen and I, for our Christmas photo, we bought pajamas, like Grinch pajamas.
I remember. I got the card.
Yeah, for like me, Jen, and both the kids, and we posed together in them. And then I posed laying down on the ground, and Jason's a big Apple fan. He's hardcore dedicated, and so I took a picture laid out on the floor in front of the fireplace in the Christmas tree, clutching my Mac to me. It's very sexual. I hope Jason's wife really enjoyed seeing that when it rolled up.
Speaking of goofy photos and inappropriate things, did any of our listeners chime in? I've been so busy this week. Did anyone chime in about the ghost pic?
No, not a single person chimed in about the ghost pic. So our listeners don't care. We did get a lot of feedback this week from listeners, just nobody talked about the ghost pic.
Got it. Good. Saved me some time.
Yeah, me too. Jack Wood wrote in this week.
Did he now?
He sent us a picture of something he was welding while he was listening to the show.
That's right.
And I'm not super familiar with welding, but it looked like he may have made some mistakes due to laughing at the show. At least I hope that's what was going on.
Oh.
Otherwise, maybe he just sent us something that was welded really well, and I just couldn't tell.
I was going to say, when you sent me the photo, I was like, it looks cool. I don't know what I'm looking at here.
I'm pretty certain he sent it to us to let us know. Also, my wife was listening to the show, heard us talking about Jack Wood, and she said her great-grandpa's name is Jack Wood.
So could it be that the Jack Wood that listens to this show is Jen's grandfather?
No, Jack told us today in the DMs, he's not Jack Wood, he's Jack Wood the Third.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which means he's possibly related to my wife. Probably not, but possibly.
So he could be like your father, Steve.
No, it'd be like third, fourth, fifth cousin. Do you know how families work?
I'm just picturing some sort of like Luke and Leia scenario where secretly you and your wife are related or something.
Why, Dustin? Why?
I got Star Wars on the brain. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Are you seeing Star Wars when it comes out?
Why would I not see Star Wars when it comes out?
Opening night or
is there another choice?
I'm not seeing it opening night.
Yeah, I don't know if I am either.
I'm seeing it Friday night at 11 p.m. At the biggest movie screen in the state of Indiana.
Hamilton Town Center.
No. IMAX downtown.
Oh, really? Downtown? It's bigger than Hamilton?
Yeah. Hamilton Town Center IMAX screen isn't technically the correct size.
That's right.
Yeah. It's a little bit like you can be licensed to be an IMAX screen if you're just a little bit bigger than a normal screen. Without actually being full IMAX size, and that's what the Hamilton Town Center one is.
See, we have this...
That's all the boring shit we have to talk about, right?
Yeah. So Twitter, I know you wanted to get in and on and in.
No. First off, I want to talk about Jackie, listener Jackie Santana sent us. H&M's ripping us off, man.
Oh, that's right. So apparently, News Alert, the creative director in the marketing department at Forever 21, right?
Did I say H&M? Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
it's Forever 21.
21. Steve, we're going to throw a company under the bus. Get it right.
2 beers in.
Yeah, he's spinning in his chair, people.
2 beers deep.
Forever 21's marketing department, someone over there is apparently listening to a little podcast called The Wedding Photo Hangover. Whoop, whoop. And decided they're throwing in the towel on their music selection because Dustin here slaved away on finding just the perfect song for the intro to this podcast. And wouldn't you know, the new ad campaign for Forever 21 is singing the same song.
And I just want listeners to know they probably chose that because Dustin and I are both immortals stuck at the age of 21.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
At least that's what I'm telling people.
But how funny would that be? Actually, Steve... I don't know, we could probably get sued for this, but if we reposted the Forever 21 video on our YouTube channel, but with the beer opening at the beginning of the song. And then drop that in the show notes.
I think we could probably do it if it was, as long as it was like a parody and it just wasn't like the full ad, but just like a few seconds of the ad. And we included something in the description that said like, they ripped us off. Yeah. You can clearly hear that beer
Check
can
out
opening.
our podcast to see why.
Give us all those sweet listens.
Maybe for Instagram. Maybe we can somehow put that on Instagram.
Maybe.
All right, let's see. But I know this is a photo-related podcast, but the further we get down this podcast rabbit hole, we tend to talk about video, because that's something we're both pretty passionate about as well. And I wanted to just chat a little bit about, I guess maybe you could say best practice. I don't know if there's any of you listeners out there who are also thinking or have or will or could dabble in the video arena.
It's the way of the future. The way of the future.
Yeah,
the way of the future.
It's just,
the way of the
your
future.
Cameras are already doing it. Why not just give in?
The way of the future.
We shot a wedding video on Friday, and scratch that. Delete that.
The way of the future.
We shot a wedding
pick
video
up
this
right
weekend.
from where I said the way of the future. Come on, Dustin.
You shot a wedding
Jump
video.
right in on the Aviator reference.
What?
Aviator.
Aviator, what's it?
Leonardo DiCaprio movie about Howard Hughes?
Nope, never saw it.
Oh, dude, it's good. He goes like crazy at one part and just starts saying, it's the way of the future, the way of the future, the way of the future. And it's like one of those things that's stuck with me. And every time I talk to anybody else about that movie, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, you like the scene at the end where he has all those mason jars full of his own piss?
Sounds like a great movie.
Everybody's like, I remember the part where he crashed the plane and barely made it out alive. And I'm like, that's not cool. The cool part is when he's in that movie theater with all the piss around him.
Making me thirsty.
You should jump on this Hoplift IPA. But first, if you want it to taste like piss, you have to have a Storm King first.
Gross. No.
It's a really good beer if you don't drink Imperial Stout first.
Steve.
Anyway, back to what you were saying, video stuff.
Stephen. We shot a wedding this weekend, and we were exclusively doing video. And I knew... Exclusive, meaning that there was another company doing the photography. Yep. And...
I'm doing sound effects for you. Come on.
No, I appreciate it. And so we've done video now for about 2 years, here and there. And we've worked with some amazing photographers, including Steve and Jen. And we've just always wondered why there's some videographers that actually request sort of an exclusive time with the bride and groom.
Exclusive.
In their contracts. And we've never done that until this weekend did I see the point of that.
Ooh, Dustin, do tell.
The photographer was incredibly rude to me and my second shooter all day long.
Like how rude?
So
No.
she would
How
blatantly
rude.
yell at us in front of the bride and groom.
How rude.
She would also, just making us feel like we didn't know what we were doing. We would
How rude.
request that we do something again so that we could capture it without her standing in front of us.
How rude.
And then...
Sorry, I'm just really trying to hone in on my Stephanie Tanner from Full House.
Yes,
Am I
see
getting
that.
close?
Maybe take the hat off.
Oh, damn it.
And the shirt. Anyways, and then she would say, oh, you can do whatever you need when I get through my posing routine or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And then later on, she'd be like, if you do need anything, just speak up and say something. I'm like, we are saying something and you're constantly belittling us, so we're just shutting down and, trying to get different angles.
Dustin, I don't know what that's like to work with another vendor who's constantly belittling you in front of the bride and groom.
I know, Steve, I know.
That must be like really frustrating if like the whole time you're working with the bride and groom, somebody else is just like shitting on you and belittling you and making fun of you. And then like later, maybe they get on a podcast with you and say like, oh yeah, I just like to do that because we're friends.
What I did with you and the Purdue wedding, Steve, was totally different.
Defend yourself, Dustin. Defend yourself.
You had to be there on Friday. Let's just put it this way. My second shooter, who is... we've talked about him numerous times, is a big teddy bear. He is
a great big teddy bear.
I mean, wouldn't you say Aaron is like the nicest human being?
I mean, every time I see Aaron, I just want to give him a hug, snuggle up.
That's that beard. Just
a great big bushy beard.
Yeah, he's got a Santa Claus beard. But anyways, he's a super nice guy. He always, puts up with a lot, especially being around
Seriously,
me.
Aaron is the nicest. Like, Dustin's not just talking him up because he works with him. Like, Aaron is so nice.
And so we were doing the getting ready, and I, turned to him in the car after we left the bride's house. And I'm like, so what do you think of the photographer? And he's like, oh, she's just sassy. She's not as bad as you made it seem.
She's sassy.
Those are the words he used.
I'm sorry.
And then after we started doing the bridal portrait time, he looked at me and he's like, I don't think I can do anymore. Like, I think you might have to finish on your own because I might, either say something I regret and get us both in big trouble because this person is driving me crazy.
Crazy.
But then what's funny is that she'll come and sit with us at dinner and just act like nothing's happened all day. Like she hasn't belittled us and treated us like the scum of the earth and the most like subpar vendor on the face of existence. And anyway, so to get to a point in all of this is I just wanted to talk about breast.
Yeah, Freudian slip right there. What's up? Dustin wants to talk about them boobies.
Best practices when working with videographers. I know photographers hate...
Dude, you're kind of a creep.
Hate working with videographers just because then you have to share your time. And a lot of photographers feel like they're actually doing all the work when it comes to posing and styling, and then the videographer is just shooting over your shoulder and getting all the credit. But
that's the best part about being a videographer.
I know. But the videographer should be treated, if they are nice and kind and a human, should be treated as part of the creative team and not an outsider. I mean, when you and Jen shoot with a video team, how do you treat them in all seriousness?
But what you were just getting at is that maybe the photographer didn't think of you as a human.
Correct.
What did she think of you, as a monster?
I think like gum on the bottom of her shoe would be the description I would use.
At least it wasn't dog shit on the bottom of her shoe.
It was more like the gum that'd gone through the dog shit.
Ugh.
Like the piss in Leo's jars.
Oh, gosh. Oh, come on, Dustin. The Aviator is a great movie, though, and you guys should buy it or rent it on Google Play or iTunes. Who's giving us money for this?
It's called Exopedia. It's like some Chinese, Korean type DVD streaming service.
Wait, what the hell? Is Exopedia a real thing?
Steve, I'm just saying a sponsor's a sponsor. We take what we can get, okay?
It's the state of North Korea? I don't know. They
all
offered
it says
us
is
money.
all the movies have been dubbed by Kim Jong. Am I reading this right?
Uno?
Uno?
Kim Jong Un. What was your question again? When you work with a videographer, are you nice to them, basically?
Yeah. How do you treat video team? Do you treat them like they are a separate thing, and you're just like doing your thing, they're doing their thing?
Well, I mean, if I'm working with you, I just secretly loathe you the whole day and then passive aggressively complain about it on the podcast later.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm working with somebody else, I'm usually like giving them high fives all day. I'm like, you're so cool. I love you. We should be best friends. Let's go get beers together. I would totally move to Fort Wayne if you wanted me to live there, if it's somebody other than you.
I figured.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just how I do. No, I connect with videographers really well because I went to school for video production. Before I started shooting with Jen, every job I've had except for like one has been in video production. I've shot numerous weddings for video, so I feel like I treat them very well. We try to just help them out as much as we can, and they try to help us out as much as they can in return.
Yeah, I mean, ever since we started shooting video, especially, the way I think is so differently now too. So whenever we have a video team alongside us that's not our own, we always think about their needs as far as lighting, especially when we're planning out things like a first look. I always try to think like, oh, they're not going to be able to use flash, so we definitely need to find something that'll work great for them as well, and try to like think those things through. And I also try to think about timing when it comes to video for the video guys, because things take a little bit longer for them to set up. They're not quite as nimble and run and gun as photographers, because they might need to have multiple angles and et cetera, et cetera. And I was just not getting those kind of courtesies on Friday. So if anyone out there has any advice for me moving forward on like how to handle that kind of situation, I mean, I even told the bride and groom up front my concerns about this particular photographer, and they said just, oh yeah, our photographer's pretty feisty, but I think everything will be fine.
Wait, so you knew before the wedding that the photographer was going to treat you like shit?
I knew before the wedding that the photographer had a specific reputation for being a little bossy, pushy.
She's bossy. She's the baddest bitch on that block.
So, yeah, but I mean, like, I was or am friends with this person.
No, you're not. This person treated you like dog shit. You're no longer friends.
And now that I've worked side by side with them, I don't know, like I have this like really bad taste in my mouth. Sort of like that pumpkin ale I had a few months ago.
You should have a bad taste in your mouth because this person is not a good person. They treated you poorly. This is what you need to do next time you work with them. You just need to give that shit right back to them the way they give it to you. You cannot let that slide an inch, Dustin.
I know, part of me, it feels like I should like have some sort of a conversation about her. I just don't know how well she would receive it. Like, just
no,
like
you don't have a conversation with her about it. You just, the next time you work with her, you treat her like shit instead of her treating you like shit.
I'm Christian, Steve, and we don't believe in that kind of thing, but I know that's how you do it.
This is what she responds to. This is the only way this photographer, male or female, wait, you use the pronoun female first.
Did I?
This female photographer, yeah, you did. I'm not just going on prior knowledge from our discussions pre-taping, recording. Man, I should have cooled it off.
2 beers,
one
Steve
beer.
is floating high.
The first beer actually was a beer I opened for Jen, and it is 9% alcohol by volume.
Holy cow!
And she drank like maybe like 2 sips of it. So I was just trying to finish it up because I'm a good husband who doesn't want to waste beer.
You're a valiant husband.
And the second beer is just 6.2%. So, I mean, that's not bad, right?
Sounds good.
Anyway, no, you can't let it slide, dude. You gotta, I mean, the good thing to do, the solid way to approach this would just be to send her a message and just be like, hey, I really didn't appreciate the way that you treated me when I was doing video with you while you were doing photos. And in the future, if we ever work together, I would just appreciate it if you would maybe be a little bit more kind and not be insulting in front of the bride and groom. That's the adult growing up way to go about it. And you can't base like, oh, should I say that to her or not? Based on like, how will she respond? Because all you can control in your life is you. You can't control her. So you gotta do the right thing.
Correct, but
the correct thing for you, and reap the repercussions.
From past experience with other people I know who have crossed this specific photographer, she has turned that into a loudspeaker and just like shit on their business. to
Like,
anyone
did she
and
leave
everyone that
them
would listen to
reviews
her.
on Facebook? Like maybe in 2013, she paid a bunch of people to give them less than 5-star reviews on Facebook in 2013.
Possibly. Speaking of which, I spent the entire week messaging those people, and not one of them has responded.
So you don't want to cross her. Could you criss her? Could you crisscross her?
I mean,
Jump.
I don't know. I need some time
Daddy
to cool
Mick will
off
make
about
you-
it and get a level head and then decide what I'm going to do.
Jump.
So,
Did you miss the bus?
anyways, enough about that. So, long story short, bad experience with a photographer. Didn't know how to handle it exactly. Trying to decide moving forward how to best handle that with photographers that we don't know going into a wedding day when we're doing video and someone else is doing photo. And also wanted to share some knowledge with all of you about if you're doing photo and someone else is doing video, how to treat them so that they don't go on a podcast and shit on you.
Look, I got to tell you, Dustin, you got to be direct. You got to stand up for yourself. If somebody's shitting on you in front of the bride and groom, you cannot bottle that up and save it for the podcast because it'll make such great content. You should have said something to her there.
I wanted
like,
to
hey,
so bad. But
I don't appreciate the way you're treating us right now. You gotta approach it from the standpoint of like, I'm not gonna yell at them. I'm not gonna go crazy or anything. Just come at them and just say, look, I really don't appreciate the way you're treating us. I would like it if you could be a little bit more kind going forward and not be insulting in front of the bride and groom. I'm just trying to get my best work in, and I know you're trying to do that too, and I want to help you, and I hope that you want to help me. And if she doesn't want to help you or he doesn't want to help you, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it except for compete with them all day for shots. But I mean, you got to be assertive. You got to say something.
That little pep talk, I needed that this weekend, man. Where were you?
Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you hire me to shoot with you?
Because Aaron's more cuddly and pretty than you.
It's a big old teddy bear. You just want to snuggle him up.
I know. I just want to motorboat that beard.
That made me so uncomfortable hearing you say that. Yeah. Does Aaron listen to this podcast? Because he's going to be so uncomfortable after that. I'm going to message him on Facebook and let him know to listen to this one in particular.
Aaron will probably be editing this podcast this time next year.
That would be awesome.
Anywho, you wanted to talk a little bit about Twitter. I don't know anything about Twitter, so this is a Steve topic.
So this is a topic that is a few weeks old, but Twitter upped the character count from 140 characters to 280 characters.
So
That's right, they
what?
doubled it.
Donald Trump can say more now?
Yes, he can.
What?
And you can say more when you respond to him, Dustin. Dustin frequently responds to Donald J. Trump on the Twitter. He says things like, those are some really deep thoughts, Mr. President Donald.
Oh, I call him the Don.
I mean, that's how he prefers for people to refer to him.
I know.
The other thing is that the display name character length on Twitter now goes up to 50, which is, I think before it was 24 or 25. Whatever it was so short that we couldn't have our display name be Wedding Photo Hangover. On Twitter, we could only have it be Wedding Hangover. So now that the display name is longer, our display name is Wedding Photo Hangover. But our username is still Wed Pick Hangover because usernames are still capped very low.
Sounds right.
Yeah, so I mean, that's really all I wanted to talk about. That's just a little Twitter update for the other people on social media. And then I just kind of wanted to talk, do you want to get into this? Like, what social media do you use? What do you feel like is important to your business?
I don't know. This has been, we have really taken a hiatus from social media this year. I don't know. Having a daughter, having a child is really taking a toll on, I mean, something had to go, being that I run everything. I don't have a Jen and a Steve in my combo. And so social media really took the back burner this year for us. I'm really hoping we can change that moving forward. So we will see. But for what we focus on when we do focus on it is Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan of the Instagram stories. For nothing else than I think it's fun. I get enjoyment of seeing my friends do like behind the scenes type stuff and just like day in the life kind of stuff. And yeah, so I'm hoping to do more of that moving forward. And Facebook, all we do on Facebook, and I know Steve has talked about this in an earlier episode, is at the end of every wedding, we take a picture with the bride and groom and we post it on Facebook. And that is about the extent of our Facebook page.
Yeah. Dustin's Facebook page is all like, look at this Dustin body with the bride and groom. Oh, yeah. We hit up Instagram pretty hard. We're on Twitter as well, but we don't hit Twitter nearly as hard. And Facebook, we mostly just use to publish our blog posts and stuff like that. We also publish our blog posts to Google Plus and LinkedIn.
Ooh, tell me more. Why LinkedIn?
I don't know if it's still like this, but several years ago, Google ranked you higher in search if you posted to LinkedIn, basically.
Interesting.
And if you had a lot of interactions on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn was one of the few social sites that was not at the time blocking Google from seeing what people were doing on their site. So Google could use that info. So they did. So at the time, it was helpful for your SEO. I don't know that it is anymore. I have not really kept up on that. We do Google Plus basically just because I was a huge fan of Google Plus when it came out, and I used it all the time. I wanted to get rid of my Facebook and just go straight up with Google Plus. And it's not because Facebook's terrible or anything. It's just because I really want there to be competition in the market. Right now, Facebook owns Facebook, and Facebook also owns Instagram. So as photographers, the two most important places to be, I've found, are Facebook and Instagram. And I mean, that's really saying the two most important places to be are Facebook. And so that's just rough because when Facebook changes their algorithm, which they did this October, it can seriously kill your business. Like, I don't know what you've been seeing, but due to the algorithm change in October on Facebook, the amount of people who see our posts on Facebook has been cut in half.
Really?
And so I want to use and pump up as many other social networks as possible because I want there to be somebody competing with Facebook, because right now Facebook owns us and they control us as far as like our business stuff goes. And I'm not saying like Jen and I'm saying like everyone basically. And so you have like two choices. Either I try to game my SEO on Google to bring in people, or I try to game the Facebook algorithm. I mean, both the SEO on Google and Facebook, it's all algorithm stuff. So it's all about like trying to figure out what is important to their like mathematical equation, and then trying to find a way to game that so your content gets seen by more eyes, so you book more clients. And it's just a nightmare to me that we've allowed, as a society, Facebook to hold this much power over our businesses. Like wedding photography, Yelp is not nearly as important. Pinterest, I feel like, holds a little bit of importance. Snapchat is non-existent for your business.
Yeah, everyone was going hard on Snapchat for a while, and I didn't really understand why. It was
so much fun. What you were saying about Instagram, loving the stories and stuff like that, that's Snapchat.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun, but I just didn't understand from a growth perspective. Like, I don't know.
Oh, no. Snapchat was terrible for a growth perspective because people couldn't just find you organically like they can on Facebook or Instagram or even Google Plus or LinkedIn or Pinterest. Like, Snapchat was like people already had to know you from Twitter or something and then find you on Snapchat.
You had to be popular on another social media platform.
I mean, there are a few people, Sean, what's his name? There's a guy named Sean who has been in a lot of Casey Neistat vlogs, and he basically became famous from Snapchat. DJ Khaled is huge on Snapchat. So it does work for some people. Like, they build a huge following on Snapchat, but there's no organic way. It's all word of mouth. You got to be so viral.
Yeah, it's just kind of like when Instagram rolled out their stories. It was like, okay, doors closed on Snapchat.
Yeah, because you can do the stories on Instagram.
Right.
I've seen a lot of people recently talking about how the story function on Instagram is so good, but they don't like using Instagram, and they wish Instagram would spin off the story function into its own app. And I'm just like, that is Snapchat. It already existed.
Oh my God. Well, that's like when people are like...
Snapchat's been doing a lot of really cool stuff, though, recently. Like, they do the whole thing where there's like a map, and you can see the Bitmojis of your friends and where they are in the map and stuff like that, if they share that info.
I haven't even opened Snapchat.
So, I mean, there's cool stuff going on. It's just not stuff that's going to help your business.
Yeah. Cool.
Do you want to move on to the next topic, Dustin?
Yeah. I mean, I wish...
Did you see what the next topic is?
Steve's story about being recognized in public by a stranger.
Oh, hells yeah, Dustin. Oh, hell yeah.
I'm so fucking famous. So where were you, Steve? Do tell, and then I'll tell my story, because this actually happened to me this week, too.
Ooh. Wait, I haven't heard your story. I want to hear this.
So my wife threw a baby shower on
nice.
Friday, and
very cool.
She wanted me my wife, as you know, as I just talked about in the Thanksgiving episode, is a extremely busy woman, and so this baby shower was almost the death of her this week. But so I tried to take on as much of it as I could. So I ordered the food for said baby shower.
Nice.
From a little delicatessen that you may have heard of called Chick-fil-A, one of my personal favorites. Yeah, we went real highbrow for this thing. We got Chick-fil-A catering.
Oh, the most highest of brows, Dustin. Did you have to take the monocle off while you ordered?
A little sweet tea with your chicken nuggets. So, anywho, I went on Thursday to pay for said Chick-fil-A so that anyone would be able to pick them up on Friday in case my wife was...
Master Chick-fil-A, it is I, Dustin, here to buy all of your goods and wares.
Precisely. So I showed up and I was like, hey, can I pay for the Chick-fil-A order that I placed over the phone so that anyone can pick it up on Friday? And they're like, oh, yeah, of course. And then the manager comes out to do my order, and she's like, oh my gosh, are you Dustin? And I'm like, yeah, I'm the one who placed the order. And she's like, no, Dustin from Dustin and Corinne Photography. And
nah, she didn't say that. She said, are you DJ D-Mac Attack?
And she was like, did you shoot such and such's wedding? Because, oh my gosh, those photos were amazing. I went to school with her, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I did that. At least I assume I did. No idea. Then I went back to my table, looked up that bride and groom, and then came back up. And I was like,
why did you have a table if you were...
I ended up getting... Because Charlie was with me, my daughter, and I got her some chicken nuggets and a lemonade for me. And then when I went back up to fill up our lemonade, I was like, oh yeah, by the way, I remember that wedding. It was blah, blah, blah at this place and that time, and it was a great time, and that bride and groom was our favorite. But,
And while I'm here, I, Dustin McKibben, will take a small box of your finest chicken nuggets and a pint of your lemonade.
And can you drizzle your finest Polynesian sauce on there for me?
Oh, yes.
So what kind of sauce are you at Chick-fil-A?
I don't do sauce, buddy.
What?
Unless I'm at McDonald's, and then I'm all about that raw honey on my chicken.
That's old school, buddy. Old school.
I like to mix that savory, salty chicken with that sweet, sweet honey.
I could go on about
sticky.
But so you were recognized. So you tell your story.
So when Jen and I were shooting a wedding a few weeks ago, I had to go from the bride's room to the groom's room.
Oh, always a tricky transition.
Yeah, so I walked out from her room, which was on the main floor, not the first floor, but like the main floor that like guests could stay on. Mm-hmm. It was also the same floor that like a giant conference was taking place on for educators. And this guy gets on the elevator with me, and he is like looking me up and down, and I was like, well, that was a boost to my self-esteem. I don't mind at all. And he goes, oh my gosh, are you Steve Van Elk? And I was like, self-esteem not boosted anymore. Apparently, I'm not looking that good. He thinks he knows me. And I was like, yes, I am. And then he goes, Steve Van Elk, like Jen Van Elk's husband?
No, I'm the other Steve Van Elk.
He goes, I thought when I saw the camera, I was like, I thought I knew you. And he goes, I was one of Jen's professors in college, and I have been following her work, your guys' work, ever since. And I think you guys do such amazing work. And I was just like, oh, great. Well, I'm glad my wife is famous. I'm not famous, Dustin.
Riding that coattails.
I threw in the I'm so famous thing in the show notes to throw you off. This is really a story about how awesome and famous my wife is.
See, we've been recognized at a few places. Granted, Fort Wayne is much smaller than Indy, so the odds of us being recognized is much greater.
Well, plus you eat at Brava's every day, right?
Yeah, it's true.
You're on that hamburger hot dog train, and people just walk in there and they're like, oh, there's that Dustin dude who lives here, basically.
We were going up or down at this building downtown one time.
Dustin goes up and down. He goes both ways.
I don't remember if we were finishing a shoot or starting, but somebody got on the elevator that we did not know and turned to us, and they said, to my wife, and they were like, you're Corinne, right? Of Dustin and Corinne Photography? And I'm like standing right there. And I'm like, and I'm the Dustin.
They're like, no, you don't look like him. But you're Corinne, right?
Yeah, you're definitely that cute blonde that I see on Facebook. But no, you're definitely fatter because you can't be that guy. Little do they know.
Wait, did you just say you were fatter in real life than you are in your photos? I
liquefy the shit out of myself when I post photos. I'm waiting for someone to recognize you or I, Steve, from the podcast. Like, hey, Steve Van Elk, a great Indiana man. Is that you?
Oh my gosh. Did I tell you? So listener Jackie sent me a few messages today. I already talked about something she sent earlier. She also said she was drinking a cider that she got from Cincinnati. And she said as she was drinking it, raising it to her mouth, she was thinking to herself, a great Cincinnati cider for a great Indiana woman like Jackie Santana.
I hope that becomes her voicemail or something.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It filled my heart with so much happiness when she sent me that message. I was like, yes!
A great Indiana beer for a great Indiana man. I just can't hit those tones like you, Steve. I don't have that voice for radio. I got more of a face for TV.
Dustin, I literally spend like 4 to 5 hours a day staring in the mirror at myself while I say a great Indiana beer for a great Indiana man just over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And then I usually have like a can of half-drink beer, and if I don't hit it just like exactly right every single time, I just crumple the beer up in my fist and then throw it at the mirror. I broke so many mirrors in our house that way.
Speaking of mirrors,
but I've also licked a lot of beer off of broken glass. I'm an alcoholic.
Do you want to talk about questions, or do you want to go on to the next topic?
Do we have another topic?
You wanted to talk about Stranger Things, which
that's Aftershow. Let's go on to the Q&A. Q's and A. Getting your Q's on your A's.
Questions, answers. Questions, answers.
On the Facebook groups.
Wait, Steve. Is this our new, not quite so new?
I'm going to murder you.
Topic section thing.
I'm in love with both the light and airy look and the dark and moody look. Which one should I go for with my editing style?
I don't know. That's not really... You always pull out the most random ass questions. Well, you are of the, if I must say, the dark and moody look. The shadows and light.
You literally just described all of photography. You are working with shadow and light.
I was really good at critique in college. I really like the composition of how you use thirds and your subjects in one of those thirds. And, but yeah, no, I don't know. It's personal preference. Play with both. See what you feel you gravitate towards, and go with it.
I specifically picked this question because she's literally the person who asked this question, asking about two diametrically opposed editing styles. Light and airy versus dark and moody.
I don't know. I feel like you can like both. There's certain instances where I see your photos on Instagram and I'm like, man, I freaking love that. But you can't.
Don't lie, Dustin. You told me every time you see one of my photos on Instagram, you throw your phone on the ground and break it, and then you're like, I gotta go get a new phone from Apple. Steve pisses me off so much.
I know. I'm still waiting on my freaking iPhone X. Jerry, if you're listening to this, I'm pissed at you right now.
Who are you pissed at?
Jerry.
Who's Jerry?
Jerry's my contact at Verizon that was supposed to be getting me the iPhone X on day numero uno.
Jerry, you're a bad man.
You're on Santa's
and you know what,
list, Jerry?
I know that when you were stuck in the desert with that other Jerry, you totally beat him to death.
But I don't know. So our editing style has really evolved over the last few years. I would not say we are of the, or at least this is what another photographer told me this summer when we had a whole editing talk with a bunch of photographers. And she was describing what she thought of everybody's editing that was there. Oh,
gosh. Was that the most painful thing to sit through in the world?
It was sort of eye-opening to me because I never really had it was more than just your editing style, but your style in general. And she said my style was called classic. So I didn't know whether to be insulted by that or...
She was insulting you.
How to take that. But
did you look at her and say, your style is immature and foolish?
But she referred to herself as the light and airy, and then another photographer there was the dark and moody, and then mine was classic, somewhere in the middle, where I feel like she was saying I play it safe and push no boundaries. That's what I felt, how I received that.
Sorry, Dustin. I feel like with your photography, you play it very safe. You do not push the boundaries towards the dark or the light. You're somewhere in the middle.
That's actually a pretty good accent, Steve.
Everything is flat. Everything is nothing.
Everything is boring.
Yes, Dustin. I'm so sorry. You are boring.
You lost it there at the end. It was so good there till the end.
I really wanted to hit that boring so hard for you, buddy.
And
I could see the audio waveforms, and I was like, oh, when I'm doing this voice, I'm not getting that flippity flappity, the high audio waveforms that I want. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm real in the middle, just like your photography.
Oh,
damn!
Hold it all around. Love it.
Did you when this photographer said that you were classic and they meant it as you're in the middle and you're terrible, did you just slap this person in the face?
You always want to resolve everything with anger, Steve.
Violence. It's the Eric Bloodhax in my blood.
The second beer really just brings it out of you. Your hats come off, your face is flush.
Oh, dude, that hat, it was feeling real tight. Real tight.
Yeah, your noggin swells with alcohol.
I get that sometimes with hats where after a few hours I start to get a headache. But I love hats.
But yeah, so back on topic. Steve and Jen do a very dark and moody edit with their shadows. Their work always kind of has sort of this cinematic style. I think they play off a lot of that look.
I mean, I gotta be honest, when we edit, Jen she makes things too bright for my taste. I want things even darker and moodier, which is probably why Jen's been so cautious about me actually doing work on my own without her, because she's just thinking to herself you're just gonna go so dark. So dark.
We'll just see the whites of their eyes.
That's all you want to see.
So will you be doing all the editing yourself for Redwood?
Yes and no. The engagement shoots I've shot so far, which I've posted some photos from, those are all things that I edited, and then I had Jen take a look at them to basically just kind of proof my stuff. My stuff is most of my clients are people who were into Jen and Steve's stuff together, and then settled for just Steve because,
I'm a little disappointed, honestly. So for those of you who don't know, Steve has branched out and started his own flag, put out his own flag for photography called Redwood Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think you missed the mark, man. I think the brand should have been Just Steve.
Just Steve. Yo, what's up, guys? It's me, Just Steve. No.
And the tagline was, when you wanted Jen and Steve, but you settled.
Yeah. That would have been perfect. I mean, there was actual thought put into the brand and stuff.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem, Steve. You put too much thought into this brand. Just like my video brand. 0 thoughts, 0 fucks given. Just...
Unlike Dustin, I like to think about things. I like to brainstorm. Typically with my wife, we throw around a lot of ideas before landing on Redwood Lane. Redwood Lane is a callback to the street I grew up on, which I don't think I should share the actual name of the street. It was not Redwood Lane, but it is 2 words that basically mean the same thing as Redwood Lane. But for internet password security, since what was the street you grew up on is such a prominent
security question,
I'm not going to say what that is, but basically Redwood Lane is a nostalgic callback to my childhood, the street I grew up on, and I romanticized it a little bit because I feel like that's what we're doing when we capture weddings. We're romanticizing something, and ultimately our photos are going to be nostalgic because time doesn't stop, Dustin. We just keep moving.
Movement, motion, light.
But I mean, that's just me. I'm super romantic, and I'm very nostalgic. So
See, but Steve, if I had used the street I grew up on, guess what we would call my brand?
Aubergine eggplant.
Winnebago Court Photography.
No, man, you could have called that RV Drive.
Yeah, exactly.
RV cul-de-sac. Actually, I think people would love Winnebago. They would love that.
It's too long.
Winnebago cul-de-sac. Winnebago?
Yes, I hired the Winnebago photography company to capture my wedding.
See? People would be all up on it, son.
I don't even know what accent that was.
It was like a little bit Swedish. But I mean, like Wisconsin and Minnesota were settled by the Nordics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, settled. Ugh.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. I got so much shit to do.
So much shit to do. Dustin, but does anyone else have family who tries to take advantage of you as a photographer? How do you deal? We're coming up on the holidays. I thought that was a good question. Last question, then we'll wrap it up for realsies.
Sure. Yeah, my family's always constantly trying to take advantage of me being a photographer. But what's been really great as of recently, so this year, and I'll send you a link. You can drop this in the show notes. My sister has gotten into photography. And so anytime a family member inquires about like family pictures or anything like, oh, you should bring a camera to Christmas. We haven't had a cousin photo. And I'm like, oh, did you know Natalie got into photography? Like, you should totally message Natalie or call.
Hit up the Nats.
Yeah. I mean, like off topic of this question, but like my sister has been crushing it this year. She's just gotten like 0.
Was she crushing it? Was she killing it? Was she kill crushing it?
Yeah.
Was she cushing it? Was she krilling it?
I mean, it's one of those things where she got a camera last year for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. From you?
No, she got the camera from my mom.
You're
and
a terrible brother.
I bought her 2 prime lenses.
Okay, you're a great brother.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I ever doubted you and your brotherly abilities.
I bought her a 50 and a 35.
I would have thought you would just give her one of your old cameras.
No.
This one shoots to film. You're going to love it.
And I was nervous to give her lenses that were, but I figured if she had a fighting chance that she needed something that wasn't the 18 to 55 that came with the kit she got. And with this little like entry level DSLR she got, she has just been producing images that have been like to the point where you're like, did you really shoot this? Like, is this really yours? Meaning, she has zero experience. She bought like a $400 Acer laptop at Best Buy, and she doesn't even have Lightroom. She's been using like a Photoshop, like a free Photoshop.
GIMP?
Huh?
Has she been using GIMP?
I don't know what she's editing in, but like it's when I see her work that I'm like, holy shit, like I spend thousands of dollars on equipment and software and all this, and here she is with no backup solutions. I know you're gonna say just like you, Dustin.
I didn't say that. See, I'm trying to be cool.
Your eyes.
You said you were going to use 2 SD cards at your last wedding this year, did you?
I did.
I'm so proud of you.
I meant to
my
take
heart
a
with so
picture
much
for
joy
you.
and happiness. Last episode, I forgot to say I'm thankful that Dustin used 2 cards. Jen told me that in the last episode, I'm going to use my words because her words were a little bit nicer. Jen said I was too much of a dick to you with all the stuff about 2 cards. And I tried to tell my wife, like, I'm seriously concerned about you because, like, just any time, like, people have bought brand new top of the line SanDisk cards and had them go bad on the very first shoot. And so, like, it freaks me out for you, Dustin. Like, I want to know that you're covered and you're backed up.
Steve, but what you don't realize is every SD card we have, before we put it in our camera, we sprinkle a little bit of holy water on it. And so it's blessed in the River Jordan. And that way it's almost like our pictures have been touched by God.
That's why they look so good.
So classic.
Did you ever maybe just put a little hole in maybe your wrist and just put a little blood on there?
Okay. I don't want you to get any more hate mail, Steve.
You're the one who's going to get hate mail for this episode after that.
Nope. No.
Do you send them off to the Pope to have him bless them as well?
So what was the question again?
The question was, does anyone else have family who tries to take advantage of you as a photographer? How do you deal?
So you pawn it off on another family member, or do what I do and you just stop bringing your camera to holidays.
Oh, nice. Just bring that iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell them that your iPhone has portrait mode capabilities.
No, because I mean, like, I don't know. It's always also on the flip side. It's frustrating then because then when you start sort of like pulling away from your family in regards to taking pictures for them for free, when they do want to take pictures for pay, like say
they hire someone else.
Someone's seen your pictures or something like that, they will hire someone else because they just assume like, oh, you're too busy or whatever.
Yeah, it's a tough line to walk. I've never done photos for family members. I have done video before. I mean, I talked on a previous episode about how I did my cousin's wedding video for her.
You did?
Yeah, you gave me a hard time. You're like, Steve, I thought you said you never do free work for anyone.
Oh, that's right.
And so I've done a few things video-wise for people that I typically wouldn't have done for like non-family members for free. And I've never regretted those decisions, but I have witnessed Jen doing photos for a lot of family members for free, and I've always regretted not like jumping in and saying like, oh, maybe you guys should pay Jen or something. But Jen doesn't really like do like family photo sessions or anything with like her family or my family. But I don't know. It's just one of those things. Anytime you're working for free, it just kind of makes you feel like you're upset, because this is something you get paid for. And when your family members don't want to pay you, it makes you feel like they don't value you. And that's a tough spot to be in.
I know. And I've done a lot of thought on this. And what I've come to the conclusion is it's not that they don't value you. I mean, it kind of is. But in their mind, it's not that they don't value you. It's that they don't view what you're doing as difficult Like, they don't see that
Yeah.
what you're doing is challenging, that it is time consuming, that it is a burden essentially to you, that it's literally just picking up a camera, snapping a couple pictures, and somehow they come out beautiful every time. So that's their mindset. And in our mindset, we're like, oh my God, I've got like 15 weddings to edit. I've still got to call the session from yesterday, and I've got to balance my taxes, and I got to call this bride, and I've got to do this and this. And somehow I have to squeeze in my Aunt Sally's family photos before Thanksgiving so she can get her Christmas cards out. So,
Did you get your Christmas cards out, Dustin?
we haven't even taken a family photo yet. We had one taken, but our daughter did not cooperate very good. So we're going to try again, I think, sometime after Thanksgiving here in the next week or two.
Very nice.
I think we were supposed to do photos with you
Thanks
guys.
for listening to another episode of the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast with your hosts, Dustin and Steve. You can find us on Instagram at Wedding Photo Hangover and on Twitter at WedPic Hangover, because Twitter limits the number of characters in your handle, but not in your display name, or at least not as short as they used to. And last but not least, you can find us on Facebook at Wedding Photo Hangover. If you want to follow Dustin or Steve individually, you can follow Dustin on Instagram at Dustin_McKibben. And you can find Steve at Steven Van Elk. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time your head is pounding, your limbs feel like dead weight, and your entire being is aching for the sweet embrace of death. That's right, next Sunday after you shoot another wedding.
See you, Stevie.
Dustin, did you start watching Stranger Things yet?
Nope. So the other night I talked to Corinne and I was like, hey, Corinne, Jen started watching Stranger Things. Maybe you?
Oh.
What?
News on that front. Jen did not start watching Stranger
Things. You said
Things.
she was going to.
She was going to, and then she read some more stuff about it and decided she didn't think she could do it.
Do you think Corinne can't handle it?
I don't know, dude. I don't know what Corinne's capability for watching babies die is. So.
Babies die in it?
No, I'm just screwing with you, dude. I'm trying to freak you out.
Oh, I don't mind scary shit. It's my
I'm
wife.
all up in your mind, dog. I just finished episode 5 of the new season, and episode 4 of the new season was so good. So good.
Scary or not scary?
There are scary parts to it. I would overall say it's not horror. It's more science fiction with a horror element, but it depends on a lot of horror tropes. There are some jump scares at certain points, and there's like a genuine sense of like this person might not make it out alive, and they might die, and I don't know if they're going to survive. In some episodes, that might freak you out. The other day, I was watching an episode, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm eating right now. I don't want to be thinking about whether or not this character and this other character both die, so I'm going to watch something else while I eat."
See, that kind of stuff doesn't bother me.
Yeah, Dustin's just like, this person's dying and I'm eating spaghetti, forking it right in.
Pretty much.
The tomato sauce looks just like blood.
I actually started a different television show today because my daughter went down for a nap and...
Was it BoJack Horseman?
Nope.
Oh, you're missing out.
No, it was another one that I've been meaning to take a peek at because I was curious. Riverdale?
My gosh.
Any comments on that?
I saw a tweet earlier today, and it said that Riverdale, the story of Riverdale is basically as Archie gets hotter and hotter, the people of Riverdale become more and more confused, and that sums up the entire plot line.
Oh, really? I just
don't
watched
know.
the first episode.
Jen watches it.
Oh, does she? The first episode, I thought the writing was really, like how it was done was really well done and interesting. I mean,
I've heard a lot of good things about the show.
It was done in a way where it definitely made me want to watch another episode. So,
but you weren't like, man, I just kind of want to chew my Bazooka Joes and get the funnies.
I did kind of feel like I wish I had a piece of Bazooka Joe gum to chew while I watched it, but...
And you're looking for them corny jokes, and then the whole time you're like, this isn't corny jokes, this is Scooby-Doo.
Pretty much. Yeah, I could do without the redhead in the show, but
Dustin hates gingers. This just in.
Yeah, no.
Dustin says gingers are soulless. This just in. Watch an episode of South Park, you'll understand.
But yeah, I will get to Stranger Things by Christmas. That I promise you.
It's good. It's real good. I have not watched Riverdale. Jen has been watching it. I've seen a few episodes kind of like while I'm doing dishes and I watch over her shoulder or whatever. It doesn't look bad. It looks good. It's not a Jen watch Pretty Little Liars. It tonally seems a lot like Pretty Little Liars as far as like the creepiness and like the way it's shot, the different like color palettes that they use, stuff like that. The age of the characters.
Yeah, they're definitely using that like whole orange teal color grade thing.
Maybe I'm completely off on the color palette thing. It's just like the darkness of most of the shots.
I would be curious what they're shooting with. I'm sure they're shooting with a variety of things, but there are a few shots where I'm like, the bokeh in the background was just like so shallow and like so creamy that I like, the photographer in me was like, I wonder what they're shooting with in this scene, because like in TV especially, it's very rare that you see like them shooting with something, at least in anything I watch, where I've seen a background that
yeah. Have you ever watched Person of Interest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are a lot of crazy bokeh like shots in that. They'll do like close-up shots on people's faces in like New York, and like behind them there'll just be like crazy ass bokeh from like a bridge or buildings or whatever.
I'll have to send you a screenshot. I mean, I'm talking like, they had to have been shooting with like a 200 millimeter with like f2 or something. It was just to give that level.
That's what
I'm
talking about with Person of Interest. Like, it was utterly ridiculous. Like, literally like bokeh like maybe this big on the screen behind like the head of the person. Just okay. Listeners can't see how big that bokeh is. It was like the size of my head. Like, it was utterly ridiculous in some of the shots. But no, man, Person of Interest I liked, but I watched Jonathan Nolan's newest thing last winter.
What was that?
Westworld.
What was it?
Westworld.
Oh yeah, that's fucking awesome. I love Westworld.
So good. You watched Westworld?
Yeah.
Why didn't we talk about that the entire time we were in Sierra Leone?
Because you hadn't watched it yet.
No, I'd already watched it by then.
I feel like there was a reason, because I had.
Oh, dude, I love that show. It's so good. I was talking about it with some friends the other day who like just watched it and like just explaining to them the things that had happened in it. And I'm like, you literally watched this last night. How do you not understand the hosts are the humans, basically? And the humans are monsters in this show. You're not supposed to feel for the humans. You're supposed to feel for the hosts.
Yeah, essentially, from what I've read, that are you familiar with Siri?
What do you mean?
Siri, like the person that lives inside your iPhone?
Yeah, I know what Siri is. Oh my gosh.
I don't know, Steve. You don't get out much. You're looking a little pale. Anyways, so Siri that lives inside your iPhone. Yep, that's your iPhone. Very good.
For the listeners, I just held
Siri.
my iPhone up for Dustin to see.
Actually inspired Westworld. Siri wrote the script for Westworld in order to soften our thoughts on artificial intelligence for when the Terminator-like future comes where they take over our world.
Dustin, I thought you had to go.
I do. All right, Steve, I gotta go. Bye, bud.
All right. Have a great night, Dustin. It's been great talking with you. And since we recorded this right after the Thanksgiving episode, I just want to reiterate how thankful I am for your company and your friendship.
Oh, have a good Abergene for Thanksgiving.
I'm going to get some eggplant in me.
That stays. All right.
That'll stay.
Bye, Steve.
That'll keep in this episode. That'll keep. Bye, Dustin. You're somewhere in the middle.